This is NBA Now live here on Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Senior. Give me a follow on Twitter at Chase_Senior. We're going to shift the focus to the people watching right now. We're going to do the first of one of our Q&A mailbags. So get your questions in, super chat us, or hashtag NBA. That will allow us to answer your question. And we kick things off with Abnahav Balaj. So he asks, is Giannis going to win MVP for the third straight year? So I popped up those NBA MVP odds, and Giannis is right in that discussion. I just think that people are kind of distracted by the fact that he's come up short in the playoffs the last couple of years, and they've said, okay, look, Giannis, 2 straight MVPs. Can we give him a third straight? His numbers might be out of this world right now, and yeah, we'll put him in the MVP discussion at plus 800. But a third straight, I think there are better options out there, like Nikola Jokic, like James Harden, like Embiid, like LeBron. I think those guys are more worthy, and they've been more valuable to their teams this year than a guy like Giannis. Coach Dreadhead chiming in. Which lottery pick teams will make the playoffs next year? That's a pretty interesting conversation. So I'll sneak this one in there. If the Minnesota Timberwolves don't land in the top 3 in the lottery, they have to trade their pick to the Golden State Warriors. That's a team right there that could be in the NBA lottery. As it stands right now, Golden State is currently 14th in the NBA lottery standings, but I think some teams can really make drastic improvements. Like, how can the Minnesota Timberwolves, Coach Dreadhead, be this bad for this long, especially if they can land a Cade Cunningham, a Jalen Suggs, and you pair them up with, Karl Anthony Towns? I just don't see how the Timberwolves can be bad for so long. So they might not make the playoffs next year, but they should make a lot of progress. The RMB Bros, should the Warriors sign Jabari Parker and Damian Jones? Damian Jones is a 3rd or 4th option at the center position. Sure, if you need some insurance, it looks as though Demarcus Cousins is going to sign a 10-day contract with the Los Angeles Clippers once he passes COVID protocols. So the Warriors are going to be out on him. There was some rumors and speculation maybe they could go that route. As for Jabari Parker, it's unfortunate what's happened to him since coming out of Duke. He was looked at as a highly touted prospect coming out of Duke, but after a couple of productive seasons to start off his NBA career, he was really hit hard with some injuries. That ACL injury kind of zapped some of his athleticism. I don't see why the Warriors would bring in Jabari Parker when they have a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who is what a lot of people thought Jabari Parker was going to be. Next question coming in from Albert139. Are the Lakers still the favorites with all the injuries? Albert, I think the Lakers are the most experienced playoff team. I think they're one of the deepest playoff teams. I think they're one of the best playoff teams. But as you mentioned, it all comes down to health. As long as LeBron James and Anthony Davis are healthy, I think the Lakers are the favorite to win the Western Conference playoffs. And I think they're the favorites to get to the NBA Finals for a second consecutive year. So you tuned in because you want to talk some basketball, you want to hear some basketball chatter about what's happening across the league, and you want to find out who is going in our NBA lottery mock draft. But if you want to stay up to date with the latest news that's happening in your city, in your county, in your zip code, head to chatsports.com/newsbreak and support one of our sponsors, because you can get the latest on news happening in your neighborhood, politics, sports, really anything that's going on in the world. Newsbreak is going to bring you the latest, and it's all very hyper local. So, hey, if you're watching from Winnipeg, like Sadner Singh, hop onto the Newsbreak app and you can find out all of the happenings that's going on in Winnipeg. Or if you're in San Bernardino, California, like Thomas Shaughnessy, you go onto the Newsbreak app and all you have to do is enter your location, and basically it filters everything that's happening hyper local to you. So again, that's chatsports.com/newsbreak. We're getting to more questions here on the NBA Q&A mailbag. Is Collin Sexton the most underrated player in the league right now? I think he's up there, Elliot Kish. Collin Sexton having a great year too. I think he's going to be one of the most dynamic guards over the next couple of years, and as long as he continues to develop, Collin Sexton is going to be a very dynamic player. And when you look at his numbers this year, averaging almost 24 points per game, I really like his playmaking and play creating abilities. So I'm with you there. I think Collin Sexton is one of the underrated players in the NBA right now. Next question coming in from Yasmin Hassan. Is it me, or why is everyone acting like CP3 doesn't get anything for what he did to the Suns? 3 second rounders? I'm not sure what he's saying there. Do you think he owns something for what he did to improve the Suns? So I get the basis of the question, and I understand what you're trying to get to. I think CP3 is one of the most underappreciated and undervalued superstars in the history of the NBA. A lot of people like to knock CP3 because he hasn't won an NBA championship, and that's the one thing that's missing from his resume. But everywhere that CP3 has gone, they have won. And when it comes to the Oklahoma City Thunder last year, with the Phoenix Suns this year, he's kind of changed that culture all by himself. So Yasmin, if that answers your question, I think CP3 is awesome and deserves a lot of praise. Next question coming in from Shanav. Could the Nuggets make a run for a top 1 to 3 seed? Maybe. They're currently in 5th place right now. The Lakers, if AD and LeBron are out for an extended period of time, they might continue to fall in the Western Conference playoffs because of the deadline additions that the Nuggets did make, bringing in Aaron Gordon and JaVale McGee. I think they improved their roster as much as anybody. So I think the Nuggets can climb the standings. Are they going to get a top 1 to 3 seed? I don't think so. I think we're looking at maybe a 4 or 5 range for the Denver Nuggets. So hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Chase_Senior. I currently have 3,643 followers. We're trying to get that follower count up. Same too with Sam Brown, the producer who's making this whole show operate here today as I'm riding solo for the first time. Give him a follow on Twitter at SamBrownCS. He currently has 1,034 followers. We were able to get it north of 1,000 back a couple of weeks ago. Let's keep that number moving. Let's get Sam Brown some more followers as well. More questions coming in on this Q&A segment here on NBA Now live on Chat Sports. What do you think the Raptors will do in the offseason? I think them trading away Norman Powell and floating the possibility of trading away Kyle Lowry signaled a reset for the Toronto Raptors. I think that they are going to rebuild. And we're about to do our mock draft lottery here soon. The Raptors are right in there. And I think that if they're able to bring in a premier player in the draft this upcoming season, and you can continue to build around guys like OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam, and you have one of the best coaches in the league, one of the best executives in Masai Ujiri, I think the Raptors can rebuild faster than a lot of people expect them to. Another question coming in from King J. King J, I recognize that name. Appreciate you tuning in. What is Ben Simmons' trade value? Cade or Suggs or Simmons? Getting to Ben Simmons first. Revisionist history here. Isn't it crazy that the Rockets reportedly turned down a deal that would have netted them Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey for James Harden? Because you look at the player assets that they got for James Harden, it was really only Victor Oladipo, and they traded him away to the Miami Heat. So they have no immediate player assets on that roster right now, which is just crazy. And they could have brought in a guy like Ben Simmons who, yes, he can't shoot threes. He's somewhat limited, but he's an all-NBA defensive player. He's one of the best playmakers in the entire NBA. I think Ben Simmons can net you a player like James Harden in a package, but the Rockets didn't pull the trigger there. As for Cade or Suggs or Simmons, our NBA lottery mock draft is coming up, so tune in for that. That's coming up right around the corner. Also, be sure to subscribe to our Chat Sports main YouTube page. We're closing in on 240,000 subscribers. Help us get there right now. So if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news and rumors across the NBA, we do fun things like an NBA mock lottery draft. Hit that big red button down below. And hey, let's get to 240,000 subscribers today. Go to youtube.com/chatsportstv and subscribe right now. More questions coming in. This one from Joseph Miller. Have you been impressed with Anthony Edwards? Will the Timberwolves make a move at power forward this offseason? Joseph, I think power forward is a spot that the Timberwolves could address in the NBA draft coming up. As for Anthony Edwards, He's been better than I thought. Now, a lot of people are going to say, should he have gone number one? Over the course of time, we'll see, because LaMelo Ball was really putting together a great year for the Charlotte Hornets before he hurt his wrist. I have been impressed with Anthony Edwards, though. He's just been a little bit inconsistent. I know a couple weeks ago he dropped around 40 points and was tremendous, but then he'll go and shoot like 10 for 30 on another night. So I've been impressed so far, but I'd like to see a little bit more consistency come from Anthony Edwards, but you also have to factor in he is a rookie. Mohammed Tour, can we see the current playoff seedings right now, please? Yes, let's run through it real quick. Let's get to the Eastern Conference. So Nets, Sixers, Bucks, Hornets, Heat. That is the top 5 in the Eastern Conference playoff standings. Knicks, Hawks, Celtics, Pacers, and Bulls rounds out the top 10 teams in the Eastern Conference. And if you've been living under a rock, 10 teams make the playoffs in both conferences this year. As for the Western Conference playoff standings, Jazz still in there at first place. Suns, Clippers, Lakers, and Nuggets. That is the top 5 in the West. And the 6 through 10 goes as so. Trailblazers, Mavericks, Spurs, Grizzlies, and Warriors. So there you go. You ask us to answer one of your questions, and we could pop up the Western Conference standings just like that, all thanks to Sam Brown, the producer. Another question from Derek Lewis. Kelly Olynyk to Dallas if he gets bought out. I actually think that's pretty fascinating. So Kelly Olynyk, not a great defensive player, but is averaging 18 points per game in a small sample size with the Houston Rockets so far this year. I think is a valuable player in this sense. You don't want him starting, but if he can come in off the bench and be a stretch 4 or 5, he can knock down some threes, he can give you some depth, he can also space the floor a little bit. As for the fit, I think he'd be a good backup behind Kristaps Porzingis, and I really don't think Kelly Olynyk would really cost all that much in the future, so I think that's a pretty good depth piece for the Dallas Mavericks. Get into the comments and shout out your team. We had you shout out your cities earlier. Shout out your team, and we'll give you some shout outs here. Let me know what your favorite team is in the NBA. We got Warriors from Style Sunner. We got Jackson Fulton saying the Houston Rockets. I'm thinking of you right now. R&B Bros Warriors, so let me know what your favorite team is in the comment section. Another question coming in from Donovan D. Thoughts on Demarcus Cousins on the Clippers? So the star players for the Clippers wanted to bring Demarcus Cousins in. They wanted the front office to sign him to a 10-day contract. That has not been made like officially official because DeMarcus Cousins still has to go through COVID protocols. So when he does join the Clippers, at this point in his career, DeMarcus Cousins, he isn't what he once was from 2010 to 2018 when he was one of the best centers in the league. At this point, he's really just a backup option. Acreus chiming in. What are the chances of Lowry and DeRozan teaming up again in New York? So the New York Knicks actually have a lot of cap space this upcoming offseason. Are they going to go after a guy like Kyle Lowry? That would be a win-now move because Kyle Lowry on NBA trade deadline day turned 35, so he's no spring chicken at all. Now he's still playing at an all-star caliber level, so if they think that they can win immediately, maybe. As for DeMar DeRozan, I don't see why you'd bring in both because both are getting older. If I had to pick between the two, I'd go Kyle Lowry. Thoughts on Patrick Williams, Muhammad? I'll tell you this. Patrick Williams has been excellent for the Chicago Bulls this year. Drafted out of Florida State. Some people thought it was a reach. What I really like about Patrick Williams, he's not scared to defend anybody in the NBA, and I think that's going to allow him to play for 10 straight years because he can really defend at an elite level. And as he develops his offensive game and knocks down three-pointers more, I think Patrick Williams is going to look more and more like a very good draft choice for the Chicago Bulls out of Florida State. Next question coming in from Jeff Stamps. What player could the Celtics target in free agency to help their big man woes? If they want to go traditional center, Andre Drummond is going to be a free agent. If they want to trade for a player, Miles Turner could be on the block if the Indiana Pacers decide to rebuild. So I think the Celtics would look at centers like that on the market. The problem with Andre Drummond, I think the Celtics could be really dangerous if they were to go out and at the trade deadline pick up a player like Nikola Vucevic. You know, Andre Drummond is more of a traditional center who really just commands the paint and clogs things up down there. I'd like to see them spread the floor a little bit with a big man. Another question coming in from Philip. What do you think Kemba's trade value for the offseason is? Who can the Celtics get for him? If you would have asked me this 2 years ago, Kemba Walker had a lot of trade value. Now, not so much, because teams across the league understand this isn't the same player anymore. You could look at the numbers and point to the 18 points per game and say Kemba Walker is still producing at a really good level. But when you watch him, he just is lacking a little bit of burst, a little bit of athleticism, and I think that knee injury, which happened last year around the All-Star break, is a big reason for that, and that's caused Kemba Walker's game to just go down a touch, but that also affects his trade value as well.